to the She Leads podcast. I'm your host, Adrienne Garland, CEO and founder of She Leads Media, a global media company dedicated to the advancement of women leaders and entrepreneurs worldwide. I'm also an adjunct professor at NYU and Rice University, where I teach on the topic of entrepreneurship. I'm a mom to two wonderful young men and married to my best friend from college. Join me each week as I dive into raw conversations with remarkable, uncompromising, and inspirational women entrepreneurs and leaders. My hope is that these conversations and their advice will encourage you to put yourself out there and gain the visibility that you and all women deserve. We're all about stripping away the sugar-coated conversations and moving boldly in the direction of our magnificent dreams. For far too long, women have been conditioned to soften their words, modify their actions, and show up in the world to conform to outdated at best and harmful at worst cultural norms and ideals. Why? To keep those who are outside of the power structures from gaining power, prestige, wealth, and influence. This has prevented women from being recognized and respected as the powerful leaders that we truly are. The She Leads podcast is here to shine the light on all the incredible women, to encourage us to show up, speak up, and showcase the amazing work we do. Speak with confidence about the innovative and transformational thoughts that we have, and celebrate the positive impact that we are making in this world, both personally and professionally. So let's do this. Let's lead. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the She Leads podcast, real conversations with women entrepreneurs. I am so excited to welcome to the podcast Nicole Garrett. Nicole is the Chief Operating Officer of Under Pressure Hyperbarics. She is a certified hyperbaric technologist and a recognized leader in hyperbaric medicine with extensive experience in commercial diving, dive medicine, and hyperbaric therapy. Nicole began her career at the University of California, San Diego, treating complex conditions like crush injuries, air gas embolisms, and diabetic wounds, and was part of a Department of Defense study on traumatic brain injuries. With over a decade of experience, Nicole has overseen the development of hospital-based hyperbaric centers nationwide and continues to consult and educate professionals globally. Welcome to the She Leads podcast, Nicole.
Well, thank you for having me.
I'm so happy that you are here. You and I got to know each other a little bit a couple of months ago at the She Leads Live conference, and you were introduced to me by our mutual friend, Mikey Kaufman of Endless Road Entertainment. And I'm so excited that I got to meet you and you got to be on stage at She Leads and educate everybody about what hyperbarics is, what it can do for you, and just how you got into this whole entire world in general. So I would love to have you just share with the She Leads podcast audience, who is Nicole? Who are you? What are you doing today? And sort of how did you get into this whole entire field of hyperbarics?
Yeah, so I started out as a commercial diver, hard hat, underwater welder type diver, and I was a dive medic. And was actually recruited to work at UCSD because they needed some more dive medics to help with the chambers. And it kind of just took off from there. I helped UCSD open up their first satellite clinic. I did the Department of Defense traumatic brain injury study, which was on 4 military bases. So it was exciting to be part of research and kind of learn that structure of how a double-blinded study actually operates and all of the regulations that come with that. And then I went on to a company that opened up hyperbaric centers for hospitals. So I opened up a little over 100 centers, everything from teaching the course for the doctors so they know how to prescribe the treatment to building out the center, installing the equipment. So in doing that over the course of, about 10 years of doing the installs and startups, I kept seeing the common thing of, even though we're putting these in hospitals all over the country, it's still largely unavailable to most people. If you don't fit into the kind of the little cookie cutter 14 indications that insurance covers, it's cost prohibitive, or they just won't even allow you to try to get in and just pay cash. So that's what led me to open Under Pressure Hyperbarics. We're the first fully certified, like Medicare insurance facility that's not in a hospital. And so that's really my goal now is we're about to open our second center mid 2025. I really just want to open this high level therapy all over the country so it's affordable and accessible to people.
So let's even wind it back further. That's so exciting. So you were a diver, but you don't just sort of as a kid, start diving. So can you just kind of walk us back to maybe a little bit of your origin story? How did you even get into diving in the first place?
Yeah, I grew up in California, moved to the Midwest in school, and then moved back because I was going to train dolphins. And I got hired at SeaWorld and realized that you can't live on $9 an hour in San Diego. So I found an ad in the paper for commercial diving. I'm like, that's still in the water. I still get to be around fish. I'm just going to go do that. And so that was really what started it. Was I didn't want to have to do what everyone else was doing, working 2 to 3 jobs to be able to be around the environment I wanted.
Yeah.
So I went to dive school.
Is that something that you always loved, as a kid? Sort of people ride bikes and play sports and all of that, and sort of being in the water, right? There are definitely people that are water people. How did you even decide that you wanted to work with dolphins? Was that something that you were interested in middle school, high school, things like that?
Yeah, that basically from day one. I mean, every little stuffed animal is usually a dolphin or something. So, yeah, it was always my drive, and figured out you have to go to school for either psychology or behavioral sciences to be able to, at least at SeaWorld, train and work with them. So that was the trajectory I started on. And then, like I said, once I realized what cost of living was as an adult, it didn't quite pan out that way.
Yeah. And it seems to me that you found yourself in a lot of situations that gave you training, probably that you didn't even realize that you needed. And you took all of that and saw an opportunity. And that's exactly what entrepreneurship is all about. So, starting, you were able to sort of open up these different centers. And so you saw what it took to do that. But that's also with someone else's backing, right? So yes. Taking the leap to do that on your own. Can you talk about that? Because the people that listen to this podcast are looking for practical advice, actionable tips. There are probably so many women out there that have this, a hobby or something that they're so passionate about, and they want to be able to bring value to others. But that leap from I'm so passionate about this to I'm going to start this as a business, that's a huge undertaking, and it brings up fear in so many people. So I would love for you to sort of talk about maybe just your thought process, and then practically, how did you go about launching your first center?
Yeah, it was terrifying to take the leap. I left my old company. I had actually called up one of the doctors I had trained and put through the UHMS course about 10 years earlier, and was just like, I have to do this. It's like my calling. Will you be my medical director? And he's like, perfect timing. We want to open a surgery center. We have no idea how to do that, but you've managed programs like this. Let's just do it together. But it was still hard. I mean, I think one of the things you need to do if you're going to make the leap is make sure you have savings. We didn't have any income coming in for 6 months when we first started. It takes a while, and we happened to open in the middle of COVID. So even when we could be open, it was very limited, on our availability. But it was scary, not having any income for 6 months and just having that faith that it's going to come, it's going to happen. I think if also you can do it part-time until it's sustainable is ideal. Yeah. We have a wound care center too here. So that kind of helped some, but the actual hyperbaric business had zero for at least 6 months.
Bringing hyperbarics to the general public, if you will, is something that I imagine requires a lot of education, because people, I think, just associate a hyperbaric chamber with someone who has gone diving and they have the bends, right? That's sort of what I know of hyperbarics. I know a little bit more now that we have spoken a little bit. But can you just tell the audience what else you mentioned? 14 different types of things. I don't know what the right word is, or indications. There's the word. 14 different types of indications that can use hyperbarics to resolve them. Can you talk about that? Because I really don't think that people understand, and education around this is probably one of the things that you are focused on.
Yeah, education's a huge component. I mean, there's two parts to educate on. So when I talk about the 14 indications, that's what the FDA has approved in the US for humans to be treated with, and insurance will cover. Now, to compare that, I mean, so how hyperbarics actually works is if I were to put most people on oxygen, if they're otherwise healthy, it's not going to give them a whole lot of benefit. Your red blood cells are how we carry oxygen to everywhere in our body, and those are saturated. So breathing more oxygen doesn't give you the ability to carry it into your body. So we put you in the hyperbaric chamber, we pressurize the chamber. If you think of like a soda's carbonated, all the gas that you're breathing is now dissolved in all your body fluids. You don't even need your red blood cells if you go deep enough. So now we can get oxygen to places that it can't. So if you have an injury from sports or a car accident or diabetes or radiation injury from cancer, we can reestablish a blood supply over time. It's actually the only thing we have in medicine that grows new blood vessels. It stimulates a stem cell release. It stimulates collagen synthesis and all these different healing properties. And all it is oxygen. We're just manipulating how we can get it in the body and giving it a boost, and your body knows what to do. So yes, educating people on that component, because you're right, most people just think it treats divers, but it also treats carbon monoxide poisoning. It treats radiation injuries. It treats, if you had surgery and there's complications with healing, it can reduce the complications or even get rid of them. And I'm hoping with new administration coming in, maybe that we can get some of this. Traumatic brain injuries, heavily researched and still not covered by insurance. But there's so much data showing that, I've seen people learn to talk again and walk again just because we can get oxygen back in there and reestablish the blood supply. So I think that's our biggest barrier right now, is it's still a little bit cost prohibitive because it's not fully covered.
Yeah.
And then the other half of the education is there's, at least in Los Angeles, there's a hyperbaric center on almost every corner here, but most of them aren't real hyperbarics. There's mild hyperbaric oxygen, which is only approved to treat altitude sickness. It's not enough pressure to give you the benefit that you need. Doesn't dissolve enough oxygen and to kind of stimulate the stem cells and all those other cascades of healing. So the other half is, if people are going down the street because it's only $100, well, it's only $100 because it's not real therapy. So I don't want people to think that, hyperbarics doesn't work. You just didn't have enough pressure. You didn't get the full therapy.
Gosh, that's so interesting. What a difference. I mean, I will have to keep my eyes out in New York City to see if there are any actual hyperbaric locations. I mean, it might be something that people include as part of these Medi spas that are popping up all over the place. But that's really great information to know. It's almost like a very surface level and almost utilizing the concept of hyperbarics, but not fully performing what needs to happen the correct way. And so I really appreciate even just that bit, knowing that there are sort of different levels and what different expectations from those different levels. And of course, I mean, you're talking about something that it's not well known. You want to be going to somebody that has the depth of experience, that has a medical director on staff, so that I can imagine, I don't know if at that level anybody could be hurt or anything like that, but that I would think would be part of it as well.
Yeah. I mean, there have been some injuries even with the low pressure ones, actually more common with the low pressure ones, because you're still putting a human under pressure, but a lot of times the equipment's not up to the same standard or the staff doesn't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
So, that's where it can be harmful to the industry as a whole. that you have undertrained people operating it, the news is just going to say, hyperbaric, chamber exploded, these people were injured. Well, there's a lot of layers to that. It wasn't a properly built chamber. They bought it from somewhere overseas that doesn't use the standards that are required. And, so all those components are important.
That is so important to know. You're talking and I'm thinking to myself, there's so many things that happen, and this is probably not an indication, but, I'm just thinking about women sometimes going through childbirth and how blood supply can be cut off for a variety of different reasons to the mother, to the baby. This is definitely not something that's indicated for infants, is it?
We have treated infants. We usually got to put tubes in their ears so we don't, damage them from the pressure. But yeah, we have treated infants. I mean, really, we're just using the chamber to get the oxygen in the body. So if that's, if they had a severe deficiency in birth, it can definitely assist with, reversing some of that.
Yeah, I mean, that is just one thing that struck me right away as you were talking, because I know that can lead to, so many developmental problems in otherwise healthy infants that for some reason their blood supply was cut off. It almost sounds miraculous, that this can be something that can treat like a crush injury, that it could get blood to other areas, if for some reason it's cut off. And the fact that you're talking about how it can regenerate blood vessels, I'm assuming, clearly I'm out of my element here. This is, it is literally miraculous. And the body is also a miraculous machine in and of itself. So, the fact that the red blood cells are carrying the oxygen that you need, but there's another way to get oxygen. And that's what people need to survive, right? Or like parts of their body. That's what's needed to survive. Also, I'm just kind of curious, like if somebody has like a spinal cord injury, or if somebody, has like a finger cut off or something like that in a mowing accident, is that also where hyperbarics could help?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, like I said, in the US, we're behind here. Most other countries treat 70 to 200 different indications.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So the crush injuries are exciting ones to treat because you'll see a very dusky black, purple limb or whatever come in. As soon as you get them in the chamber, it starts to pink right up because you got the oxygen in there. So now we're keeping it alive while we're reestablishing that blood supply. And it's a really potent anti-inflammatory. So one of the things they've realized in spinal injuries over the years is if there's a suspected injury and they can kind of ice you down to keep the inflammation down, you can maybe prevent something like paralysis. You put them in the hyperbaric chamber, it's going to do the same thing and ensure that the blood's flowing all the way, the oxygen's getting everywhere while you're healing.
That's incredible. Now, are there also, you're talking about inflammation, are there also, I don't know if I want to sort of say this, but like almost cosmetic uses? Like I would imagine the more oxygen that you could get to maybe face, maybe that prevents wrinkles. I don't know. You look like you're, 19 years old. So is this something that also can be used for cosmetic purposes?
100%. It's, it stimulates collagen synthesis. So it does on a cellular level keep you looking young. I've probably done over 1,000 treatments myself.
Yourself?
Yeah.
Oh,
myself. Yeah. Inside.
Benjamin Button.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny you say that. In 2020, they released a landmark study that they put, I think it was 40 individuals in the hyperbaric chamber for, 60 days, 2-hour treatments. Okay. And before they got in, they tested the length of their telomeres, which is the tails of your DNA. Every year you age, they get shorter. And at the end of their treatment course, every single person had put 25 years of length back on their telomeres. So on a DNA level, it is anti-aging. So it's not just like, oh, you do look younger. And most people that work in the field do tend to age very gracefully because we all take advantage of it. But now we know on the DNA level, it's actually reversing aging.
Yeah. And every single thing that you say just makes me think like, for Alzheimer's patients or people that have suffered from strokes, anything that sort of cuts off the blood supply, it seems to me that this could really help. And it's an advanced technology. And I love that you are in that field. I mean, you're in the STEM field, in more ways than one. But that is also something that I think a lot of women are sort of, reluctant to go into because they think of, pure science in a lab all day long, maybe behind a computer. But you are proof that, being in the STEM field can have a multitude of, just different ways that you bring technology to the public. And I think that that's so exciting.
Yeah. It's been a fun journey on this progression. I never thought I'd be where I'm at now.
Yeah.
I had goals, but to be here and running a successful business, about to open my second, is just really exciting because it's also in something I'm so passionate about.
Yeah. Is this something that you can see becoming a franchise, like a franchise model, or is this something that you'd like to just sort of open a couple of local centers?
No, my goal would be to franchise it. There's a popular company that's got low pressure chambers as a franchise. Like, I just want to bring the real therapy everywhere. Mm. And so I'm now looking for doctors that want to augment their practice, or individuals who say, I want to do exactly what she's doing, so we can get this everywhere. Because I can't physically be everywhere, but I have the structure. I did this for hospitals for years. It's like turnkey for me. Now I just want to make sure it's available to everyone, because it really is life-changing. I mean, we have patients that come in with dementia and, they don't dress themselves, they don't feed themselves, they're mostly nonverbal, and they'll do a treatment course and they're back to like living on their own again.
No.
And that's just because, yes. And I have primary care doctors call me all the time. What did you do to this patient? How are they so different? How are they so cognitive? I'm like, we just gave them oxygen. We just figured out how to get it in there. And because it regrows those blood vessels, we reestablished it. This isn't like a temporary fix. This should hopefully last you, years.
I am just blown away. And I'm kind of going through my family and things that have happened to grandparents and, aunts and uncles and everything. And I just think to myself, my God, if I had known about this, I would have gotten my grandfather right into that hyperbaric chamber, because it's so traumatic when somebody that you know so well starts acting like someone that you don't know, and there's nothing that you can do about it. Bring them to doctors, but it's just a decline. And even if it's at the first indications of something, if someone can go get this proper treatment, that they could prevent some of the decline that just inevitably happens. I said it before, it sounds like a miracle. It really does sound like a miracle.
Yeah, it kind of is. I mean, it's such a non-invasive. If you can clear your ears, like you drive through the mountains or fly a plane, you can get in the chamber and you can do the therapy. All you have to do is breathe.
Well, I was going to say, can you describe actually the chamber? Because I have literally no clue what that even looks like.
So we have Seacrest chambers, but what they are is they're a big clear acrylic tube. And then there's got a door on one end. You lay down on a gurney, we slide it in. And then once we start pressurizing it, you'll feel the pressure change on your ears. So it's kind of like landing in the airplane or driving down a mountain. We're pressurizing it to between 2 and 3 atmospheres. So 2 to 3 times the pressure of sea level. So if you were to be a diver, that's between 33 and 60 feet, roughly, for our scuba divers out there. And like I said, all you have to do is clear your ears to get to pressure, and then you just breathe. And your body gets the oxygen through breathing, just like it does now. But it just kickstarts that whole cascade of events inside to grow the new blood vessels, reduce the inflammation, all that.
So your whole entire body goes into the chamber, and that sort of targets where it's needed.
Your body decides what it needs to heal or what it's going to prioritize. Generally, the places with the most inflammation or acute injury, it prioritizes first. But we have patients when they're here going off arthritis medications, or they're bringing back their brain scans and saying, look how good this look, or if they have macular degeneration, they're showing us all their scans all the time and they weren't coming for that. They were coming for something else, but
Right.
your whole body gets the benefit.
Oh my gosh.
So
Are you
yeah,
opening one in New York? Come on. Come on, Nicole.
I do want to.
Yeah, we New Yorkers, we need it because, some of the air that we breathe is not the healthiest.
Yeah. Yeah, you really do. And I think it would do fantastic there.
I think so too. So right now you have your center in Los Angeles, and where is the second location that you are opening?
The second one's going to be in the core of Beverly Hills.
Nice.
So yeah, it's a big women's surgical group. It's 12 female surgeons. They primarily do breast cancer reconstruction, so mastectomies and reconstruction. So they've been using the chambers with us for a long time.
Wow.
And they're like, hey, we're doing a remodel. Can you help us do this? And we're going to partner and put it right in their center. So just like at our center, you can come right out of surgery, jump right in the chamber. There's no delay.
Wow. That is such a beautiful thing. And one of the things that I also love, the fact that you're in STEM, but also the fact that you are in this field that's helping women. And I think so many more entrepreneurs, so many, women entrepreneurs, especially, we understand some of the problems that we are facing, and we need more people to start businesses that address the problems that women are specifically facing, and having, sort of knowing what those problems are and having the empathy is really such a great way to think about how do I launch my business and how do I serve women. So the fact that you're opening it within this center that is helping women is just so beautiful. What a beautiful thing. I actually thought that the second location was a standalone. I didn't realize that it was part of a larger surgeon group where they're helping women to sort of get their lives back after a very traumatic experience.
Yeah. It's been rewarding seeing all their patients here. I'm sure I'll just jump over there and get to see them, but I'm excited for how accessible it will be for them. And it is a very traumatic, getting a mastectomy is very traumatic. You're losing one of the things that it makes you feel like you're part of a woman. And they have a really high fail rate because they have to take everything to make sure they get all the cancer.
Yep.
So there's nothing left. So getting the oxygen in there, it really helps prevent failures, which prevents multiple surgeries, scarring, drawing out the already traumatic process.
Wow. For somebody who, I'm sort of going 180 degrees in the other direction, for somebody that wants some benefits, like let's say someone is suffering from inflammation, so many women that are going through, menopause, that whole entire journey, there are just things that happen to our bodies, and it feels sometimes like we're so inflamed and the hormones just make us feel so out of whack. If someone wanted to sort of go in and wanted the benefit of reducing inflammation in their body, maybe their joints hurt, whatever. How many times does somebody need to go in for a session, I guess, in order to get the benefits of reduction? And I know that of inflammation reduction, I know that it differs for everybody, but just on average, what would you say?
Yeah, and that's a good point. Is you almost never do just one treatment. The treatment, to have all that stuff be successful, you need to do a series. And so we usually start people at 10 treatments. And then once their inflammation's really down, if you could do them every day, it's ideal. Come in Monday through Friday. And then once it's down, you can kind of find like a maintenance. We're also seeing with autoimmune diseases, we can kind of turn off that switch. So we get the inflammation down, your body stops attacking itself. Now you can find the trigger really quickly. We're seeing it with Crohn's especially. You get all the inflammation down, then you eat the food that flares it up, and now you exactly know what it is. But with Crohn's, it can take 6 to 9 months to get the inflammation down. It's so hard to find what that trigger is.
Yeah. My husband, and I think I mentioned this, my husband has something called sarcoidosis. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. I never heard of it before, but it's like this randomized inflammation that targets different areas of his body. And, it's, my, unprofessional opinion is that it's all due to stress. But I just think that something like this could really benefit him because it is so nonspecific. He does not know what is causing it. He's on prednisone, which is, the medicine that tries to tamp down the immune system response. But, I hate the fact that he's having to take prednisone every single day for months and months. And, I'm just oh my God, it's like the results. See, I need this because my brain is inflamed, Nicole. Oh my goodness. The words are just not forming like they used to. So apologies. But, just some of the negative outcomes from prednisone is something that I don't know what that is on the long term. So, getting him into this type of therapy, I think is the right thing to do.
Yeah, when we try to evaluate would hyperbarics work for something, really the mechanism of action is what we look at. So if you're going to benefit from inflammation reduction and hyperoxygenation, it's going to help. So I absolutely believe it would help. And no crazy side effects like with a lot of steroids. They start to make you retain water and swell up, and
and he's doing all of these other he's taking all these other counteractions with that, like the Ozempic or whatever, and I'm just like, you are filling yourself with drugs that you don't need. Stop it all. But, that's easier said than done. But I think just it's so wonderful just to hear what you're doing and what this almost like new, at least to me, this new therapy that can benefit so many different people in so many different ways. It's amazing that you are bringing this and you have the mission of bringing this, everywhere, right? So people can benefit. What's next for you on the entrepreneurial journey? Because this is not a small undertaking, right? So what are sort of some of your next practical steps? And the reason I'm asking is, number one, I'm interested, but number two, for everybody else that's listening in, when you do have this idea that you see a lot of success with and that more people want, how do you take that next step? Is it funding? Is it franchising, and going through that whole entire process? What are your next steps?
Yeah, I think this opening of the second center is going to be our first big test, because right now so much of the practice is led and driven by me. So me not being physically there, doing a lot of the consults, walking the patients through the process, making sure that I know how to teach that instead of just do it is going to be a challenge. Yes. And then from there, it's probably going to be funding, because it's not cheap to build this out. I mean, the equipment's expensive. There's a lot of regulations to the room that it's in, a lot of fire regulations in case there's a fire outside, that we can keep it out so we can safely get people decompressed and out of the chamber. That's all expensive things to put in, 90-minute burn doors and 2-hour walls and sprinkler systems, just to make sure that if something happens, people inside are, protected, safe.
Right.
That kind of
thing. Because you can't come out of that. You can't just throw yourself out of that. It has to be decompressed.
Right. You can't just open the door.
Yeah. Ooh, interesting. Oh, really, really interesting. Yeah. I think that going from being the founder, then there's a whole podcast. I don't know if it's still even up, but it was called From Founder to CEO. And it's the exact problem that you described. How are you the person that's sort of doing it all, wearing all the hats, wanting to grow the business, but how do you transition truly to CEO, where you're making strategic decisions about the business so that you can continue to see it grow? And, you want everybody to do things the way that you do them because you're the expert. That I do think is going to be a big challenge, but I know you're up for it.
Yes, I'm definitely up for it.
You've got the goods and you've got the knowledge, and it's a matter of, how do you operationalize that? How do you document that? And how do you communicate and teach that? But I cannot wait to see what you do. I cannot wait for Under Pressure Hyperbarics to be out here in Long Island. So please come here first. And then you could go to New York City.
That's probably easier to do because trying to get those big chambers and those high rises is not.
Yeah, it's not going to be
We got
easy.
nice ground floor. That's about it.
Well, if people want to learn more about you and Under Pressure Hyperbaric, how can they do that?
Then go to underpressure.com. That's our website, or we're on Instagram at Under Pressure Hyperbarics. It's probably the two easiest places to find us.
Wonderful. Well, Nicole, thank you so much for spending time with me here today on the She Leads podcast. I appreciate you just taking the time out to educate me and the audience.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. It was a lot of fun.
This and all of our episodes are brought to you by the She Leads Podcast Network, the podcast network for women, by women. Thanks so much for listening to the She Leads podcast. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support us, please share it with others, make a personalized post about what you took away on social media, and please leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts. This helps our guests and our show to continue to gain visibility and traction. To learn more about how She Leads Media helps women to gain visibility, you can follow us on Instagram at She Leads Media, or you can head on over to sheleadsmedia.com. If you'd like to network with me and other amazing women, don't forget to join us each year for the She Leads Live conference. Thanks again, and we'll see you soon. This is the She Leads Podcast Network.